Walking into Divas was like walking into a different world.
The vibe at Divas was chains and whips and everything. Oh yeah, that was one of my themes. Beat the out of this guy and take his money.
Rowdier and raunchier could be good descriptive words, for sure.
Bachelor parties came from far and wide. They would come in with the fiancés, and they would still try to hit on you.
It was a surplus of cash. But it can be dangerous. You're not always safe.
The strip dancer Rachel Roxanne Ciani danced topless until her crumpled body was found on Saturday morning.
Rachel was the epitome of the girl next door. She was going to college to be a musical therapist for special needs children. In between sets, she'd be out in the back dresser room doing her homework.
She seemed shy, she seemed quiet. She looked so young to me.
It was mind-boggling thinking who could do this to her.
Rachel had several admirers. She had a boyfriend. She had a dating relationship with the DJ.
Your mind starts wondering, oh my God, he just got fired. Now she's dead. What?
Walking into the motel was the last time she's seen alive. Police find a stain on the sidewalk. That looks like blood. She either jumped, she fell, or she was pushed.
Walking into Divas was like walking into a different world. It was wild. There was just more theatrics, a different energy. Rowdier and raunchier for sure.
Divas was in Bristol, Pennsylvania. We used to have a night called The Edge, and they had me in like whips and chains, and it's like, are you man enough? Because they knew I'd have no problem beating the shit out of them on stage, off stage, and get paid. We also had hot seats, they would call them, when they would handcuff a guy to the pole. We'd do a lot of things, pour ice down their pants in front of everybody in the club, and jump on them, beat them with their own belt.
What a crazy thing that was for me to do. I mean, one time there was some mud wrestling thing up on the stage, which I did not participate in.
They would advertise, like, this person against this person, come see him at a certain time. So the guys was making bets or throwing money. I took the championship belt from this girl who had it for 5 years. Everybody was making good, crazy money, even the bouncers.
I would see a man walk in the door and I would like literally see a dollar sign. I was like, there's another dollar sign. That's how I saw them. Not men, they were dollar signs. It was a surplus of cash. Show me the money. Not every man came in for a lap dance. A lot of times in that champagne room, mostly the men wanted to talk. And sometimes if you wanted, you know, more money, they would ask, oh, flash me or pull your thong down in the back or whatever, you know, just weird little things like that. It was an okay way to make some money quick. But lines can get blurry. I might go to the diner after work with a customer. You know, I would do that. You know, I was like, oh, they seem safe. Oh, that's a friendly person. I actually dated one of the customers for a while. It can be dangerous, and even with precautions, you're not always safe.
I received a call from the desk sergeant at the Morristown station who advised me that there was a ATV rider. He was a hunter and he was looking for deer, and he came across a girl who was on the ground, lifeless. After I was notified, I drove up to the scene. It was a road right near the river, near the Delaware River. The woman's body was about 100 yards from the road, under the bridge. When we get to her body, it looked like a young girl, her early 20s.
There's a direct line from that bridge to where the body is. So there's a few possibilities here. She jumped, she fell, or she was pushed.
The thing that stood out, that she wasn't wearing any shoes. She was wearing white socks. And the most important thing that we saw was that, for the most part, the white socks were completely clean.
You got to realize, if she had walked onto the bridge, her socks should have had a lot of dirt, a lot of debris, road gravel, items like that.
I went up to the top of the bridge, and there were some fibers that looked consistent with her sweater. And then when you looked over the bridge, you can see that there was blood. So it was almost apparent that someone had draped her body over that bridge and flipped it over.
When you just dump a body off a bridge, it's almost like, whether they're alive or dead, like you're discarding them like trash.
When the medical examiner arrived, they turned her body over. She had injuries to her head and blood spatters in the back of her neck. And we also noticed that she had broken fingernails. So it appeared that she was in some type of struggle. But we were not able to get any DNA evidence off of her neck or her body. We don't have any ID. She doesn't have a wallet on her, nothing.
The only thing that was noted on her was a necklace that had a butterfly on it.
One of the big challenges with a Jane Doe is, until you know who the victim is, you don't really know where to start. So they then decided they were going to reach out to the media and put out a description as much as possible of the victim.
Neighbors in this quiet suburban community are in shock.
This story is headlines everywhere in southeastern Pennsylvania. Who is this? That's the great mystery at that point.
Once they had put it out to the news, almost immediately they received a phone call from a gentleman who identified himself as Bill Love. He said he was one of the managers of a dance club in Bristol, Pennsylvania called Divas.
Divas is in Bristol Township, Pennsylvania. It's right by the Turnpike Bridge. You can see New Jersey from where Divas was. Divas was probably the most well-known gentleman's club in that area. HBO picked Divas in Bristol for a reality show because the dancers there were truly beautiful women.
I wound up being on that particular docuseries, G-String Divas, and that was exciting. It was kind of a sisterhood. We all had a particular goal, whether it was tuition or, financial situation. I know one young lady, she was just, I guess, biding time until she went into the Navy. I know one of the girls I danced with had a master's degree in psychology. So it was quite a diverse group of ladies.
So the police go to Divas and they talk to the manager.
He said that the description of the victim, her clothing, and more specifically a butterfly pendant that she had, matched an employee who had been gone missing for several days now. He told us she had missed 3 actual work appointments. The first shift, he didn't think much of it. His statement was something like, well, she's a dancer. They're not always the most accurate, punctual on their shifts. But when she missed the second shift, he got a little concerned.
He tried several times to contact her at home, on her phone. She wasn't getting back to him.
He notified detectives that he believed the victim was Rachel Ciani, 21 years old.
Someone from work let me know that Rachel, they found her, and she was dead. I was definitely traumatized by that, because I didn't believe it. I was like, what sick joke is this? Like, it was surreal. I couldn't believe it at all.
My initial feeling obviously horrified and sad. It hit close to home.
My mom told me that she read an article that one of my classmates had been murdered. And then she told me it was Rachel. My first reaction was shock. And then it was just really sadness, just that, like, this beautiful soul is gone. I met Rachel Ciani our freshman year of high school. We sang in choir together. Rachel was always very quiet, but very welcoming. She had a smile for everybody. In chorus, we both sang alto, which is, I would call it the color part of the music. And it's such a neat feeling when you hear your voices blend. We kind of look at each other like, oh, I heard that. That was good. We sound good. So it was fun. Rachel and I didn't have a whole lot of financial privilege, and so our values were just placed on, I want to work hard, I want to get out of school, I want to, make a life for myself. And so we didn't get caught up in cliques and social issues and all that stuff in high school. My home life was that things were tight, and I have a feeling that things were tight for her too. I know it surprised my mom when she found out her line of work, but to me that was just a job. You do what you need to do.
She was going to college, trying to pay her way through college, and that's why she danced. One of her dreams to be a musical therapist for special needs children. That's what she was studying so hard for.
She saw an avenue to getting through college, to getting to the career that she wanted. And so dancing was a means to an end. It wasn't, oh, I can't wait to do this for the rest of my life.
Rachel was a young person exploring and growing and, still a child, basically.
So as soon as the manager identifies the body, the police immediately focus on Divas. They want to interview anybody who knew Rachel, the last time they saw her, where she was, and who she was with.
We learned that Rachel had several admirers. She had a boyfriend who was currently incarcerated in one of the county jails. She had an on-again, off-again dating relationship with the DJ. And then, unfortunately, there was also an incident where she had an admirer that almost went a little too far.
We learned that there was a former cook at Divas that was obsessed with Rachel. He even went around calling her his girlfriend.
It wasn't uncommon for him to show her unwanted attention that he apparently was warned about. It was told to us that it was almost a stalking type relationship.
It got to the point where Rachel complained about him and he got let go.
So then your mind starts thinking crazy things like, oh my God, the other day they fired him. Now she's dead. My stage name was Paris because I was hoping to make enough money to eventually go there. Kimberly and Paris are two different people. They're so far apart on the spectrum. Kim was naive. Paris was going to get that money. That's how that works. You'll find out with most of us who dance, it's your alter ego, I suppose. What you wish you could be or what you would not allow for your personal self. It's either or. You pick your poison. Rachel Ciani was the epitome of the girl next door. Roxanne was her stage name. Foxy Roxy. Rachel and Roxy were two different people. Rachel was definitely soft-spoken. Roxy, forget it. She was a spitfire if you messed with her. She was not playing. So I was like, nobody's messing with her. It was mind-boggling thinking who could do this to her. Definitely one of the biggest, oh my gods of my life.
The strip dancer Rachel Roxanne Ciani found brutally murdered. For 18 months, the Ben Salem woman had danced topless at the Bristol strip joint known as Divas International until her crumpled body was found under the Pennsylvania-New Jersey Turnpike Bridge on Saturday morning.
We knew we had several people that we had to interview in order to zero in on someone that was responsible for her death, or people that were responsible for her death. We had to speak with the cook, who was obsessed with Rachel.
Was he so infatuated with her that either A, it got out of hand, or he felt that if he couldn't have her, no one else could? He did admit that he had a thing for Rachel, that he did want to be involved in a dating relationship, but that she had no interest in it.
Potential motive for the cook to have done Rachel in? Yeah, sure. That's occupational hazard when you're a dancer at a gentleman's club, is that you have some stalkers. And he was obsessed with Rachel Ciani.
But there has to be more evidence, there has to be more eyewitness testimony. We don't have any physical evidence, no video footage, there was no DNA evidence, and the detectives realized that they don't have enough to charge him at this point with the murder of Rachel. We executed a search warrant on the car, but there was also no trace evidence, DNA evidence, blood, or anything to show that she was attacked or even murdered inside that vehicle.
Her car was removed, and it was so hard going into work and not seeing her car there was, it put holes in my soul. Like, I couldn't, it was a gut punch. Rachel was friends with everyone. She was 4 foot nothing. She was the tiniest little thing, not even 100 pounds.
She definitely seemed reserved and modest. You know, we wore thongs, G-strings, right? And I noticed that her tan line was a full bottom cover tan line, where I tanned in a tanning bed back then, in the nude, so I wouldn't have tan lines.
In between sets, she'd be out in the back dresser room doing her homework. I mean, that's a little hard in the strip club, but she did it. So yeah, she was really trying to survive.
My mom was very upset to think of me being 22 and, oh my God, somebody my age is gone. And even when I was 22 and kind of processing that, it was, oh my God, her birthday's in 2.5 weeks and she didn't make it. You know, it was just a really weird thing to process and very sad.
After we go to the car, one of our detectives was speaking with William Love, the manager of Divas. He advised that the last person that he knows that saw Rachel alive was another dancer by the name of Alexis.
Detectives interviewed her good friend Alexis. She said that night the two of them had hung out at the bar for a little while, and it was close to 2 o'clock in the morning.
Alexis's shift ends, and Rachel and Alexis go out in Alexis's car, and a Bristol Township police cruiser pulls into the parking lot. It's well lit, and Alexis thinks to herself, well, this is my cue to leave. She drives Rachel over to Rachel's car, which was close to the entrance of the club.
They had both noticed someone that approached the door of Divas, and the person started banging on the door.
And Rachel saw that it was Jack Denofa, one of her regular customers. So she says, oh, let's go out, I'm gonna go talk to Jack and see what's going on. Alexis asked Rachel if she wanted to wait around if she was okay, and she said, no, it's Jack, I'm okay, you can take off.
She gets out of the car and goes over to him. And that's the last time Alexis sees Rachel, heading over to this man pounding on the doors of the club.
When I first heard about Rachel. One of my first thoughts was that could have been me, easily. I was once drugged at that club. I was roofied. Right at the end of my shift, somebody managed to put something in my drink, and I lost it. I literally lost consciousness.
And I had a few people that were quite obsessed. It's like, it's not all fun and money. I was looking over my shoulder, and you had to be aware.
That's a real thing in the industry. That's a real thing. And it shouldn't be, you know? Anybody else can go to work and make their money and not have their lives jeopardized. In fact, I quit shortly after that because I felt it's really not safe, even though it's an upscale gentleman's club.
We found out that it wasn't uncommon for Jack to show up literally at closing or right before closing. A lot of times he would bang on the door, and if the bouncers were there, they would open the door and they would let him in, and he would hang out.
There were a core group of regulars that would come into the club, and in particular, Jack Denofa, and they would actually sit back at kind of the bartender's station, you know? I always got the impression that it was more of a male bonding type of a outing, like a meeting place where they all had something in common with each other, whether it was the food, the women, the music, or all of it.
We learned that Jack Denofa went there every Tuesday night. He would eat, he would play pool, smoke cigars, watch the dancers. Jack was a businessman in Doylestown. He was married, he didn't have any children. And this was one of his little things where he'd go to blow off steam. And Jack's wife was okay with him going there. At times that she would go and meet with him if she had to pick him up.
I just thought it was cool because, see, I had a lot of couples that liked me. So it didn't bother me or make me think any way that his wife would bring him there. We did see her from time to time, and she seemed really nice. And, I mean, she had to be nice. She was dropping her husband off to the strip club every Tuesday.
He was always friendly, he was always respectful, he was always generous. He was just a consistently good guy, somebody who you would trust.
Yeah, Jack had money and he wanted to spend it. Jack was friends with most of the dancers, but he was obsessed with Rachel. He loved him some Rachel. He'd be like, here's $100, go in the back and get her. Because she'd be back there studying. So, like, he wanted all of her attention all the time.
He was like an ATM machine. He would give Rachel Ciani $100 just to sit with him for an hour. He would give her so much money that she told the other dancers she didn't have to get up on the stage to dance for dollar bills.
We also learned that it wasn't uncommon for him to stay at the motel that was attached to Divas.
Divas was connected to the Econo Lodge, actually connected. They were in the same building. You know, you went in one door and there was the hotel. So it was typical for a client to, if they got too drunk, stay at the hotel.
We found out that Jack had a DWI, prior DWI, so that's why he stayed next door. He didn't want to drive home after a night of drinking.
When detectives interviewed her good friend Alexis, Alexis gave a statement to the police that Rachel was last seen with Jack, one of the patrons they knew from the bar.
Before Alexis left, she observed a Bristol Township police officer come into the parking lot. We realized that we needed to speak with this officer. Was he one of the last people that saw Rachel alive?
The patrolman gave a statement in which he had pulled into the parking lot due to the fact that it was well lit. He had a report he was finishing, and he knew it was around 2:30 in the morning.
It was apparent to the officer that Rachel and Jack were friendly. He saw them converse for a little bit, and he saw them both walk from the Divas establishment into the entrance of the Econo Lodge, and observed them walk down the hall past the front desk into the hotel.
They confirmed that Denofa has checked in on Tuesday, the 28th, a little after 11 p.m. The night desk clerk gave him the keys to room 223 on the second floor of the hotel. And he checked out Wednesday, the 29th, at about 4 a.m.
After speaking with the clerk at the hotel, we decided to walk around the back to see if we can find anything that belonged to Rachel. While walking on the sidewalk, I noticed there was a big brown stain. So I had a piece of paper from my notebook and I wiped it, and when I looked at it, it was red. It was actually blood. While looking at this blood stain, we looked up and we realized that it was right underneath that window of room 223, the same room where Jack Denofa stayed.
I went to Rachel's funeral for the number one reason is realizing that could have been me. It could have been anybody. And as a mother, also thinking how horrible it is to lose a child, I just really felt compelled to go. And so I did, and I met with her stepmother. But I remember her coming up to me and asking me, was I a dancer? And I said, not anymore. And she, was very motherly and urging, don't ever do that again, don't go back to it. It was a very gut-wrenching experience. So I can't imagine what her family must have gone through and probably still goes through. Yeah.
There's now a pool of blood outside Jack's window from the second floor, which is right away very telling, very suspicious.
At this point in the investigation, we need to get inside the room where Jack stayed at. During the search or the examination of the room, we see a window where leads right outside to the ledge just above where the blood stain was found. And we see fibers that are on the edge of the window. We don't know if those fibers are from Rachel's sweater or from a sheet or a cover that was in the hotel room. And we also find in the shower what an apparent blood stain or a blood drop.
They find some blood in the shower, but nothing you can make a case out of.
Unfortunately, we had learned that the room had been rented or used by several people since then, and it had been cleaned almost every day.
So, without any firm evidence found from room 223, the police widened their investigation at the hotel.
I was involved in an interview of two individuals that were actually in the room below him. One of the individuals gave me a statement that he was woken up approximately 3 a.m. by some kind of a noise. He couldn't remember if it was a scream or a loud noise. And then he listened, didn't hear anything else, and went back to sleep.
So the clerk was very familiar with Jack. Her shift was Tuesday night when he was there. So she knew his routine. When he didn't follow his routine, she noticed it. Jack did check in that night around 11 o'clock, but she advised us that she saw Jack around 3 o'clock in the morning through the window running in the parking lot, which is not what he normally does, and it caught her attention. The clerk also advised us that normally Jack would check out around 7 o'clock to go to work the next day. She saw him leave around 4 o'clock in the morning.
What raises the night desk manager's attention is that he throws the keys on the front desk, and normally he's very friendly, he jokes, but he's very abrupt with her, very short. And he just wants to check out, and he leaves without saying anything. She thinks it's unusual. All of these things just stuck in her mind of being odd.
Due to the fact that he was the last person known to be with Rachel, the fact that there was what appeared to be presumptive human blood outside his room, his running around in a parking lot at 3 o'clock and hurriedly showering and leaving shortly thereafter led us to believe that he was our prime suspect at that point. The detectives went to Jack's residence, ended up approaching, knocking on the door, ringing the doorbell. His wife answered. They identified themselves to her, told her that they needed to speak to her husband, and then it was in reference to a homicide they were investigating.
As soon as she finds out it's about the death of a dancer at Divas, his wife says, I knew this was going to happen one day. I knew this was going to end with police.
I definitely told the investigators that Jack was hot and cold. He loved to drink. He could be funny and happy, but he could be a nasty drunk, like a nasty, vulgar drunk, cursing, and if he didn't get what he wanted, like a spoiled child. He thought he was entitled. He thought he had full reign and was able to do what he wanted and get away with what he wanted. But even though he could be really nasty, Rachel and Jack were friends. None of us would have been scared to go anywhere with Jack. I wasn't. I know that she wasn't. I mean, he was harmless.
During his interview, he advised detectives that he had known the victim, Rachel, for approximately 2 years, and he made it seem like she was very friendly with him and that she jokingly said that she would have sex with him, but he stated he would never do something like that. He's married.
He tries to portray Rachel as this flirt who somehow had a crush on him. He's asked, well, do you think that anybody would want to harm her? So he tells the police, well, you know, she's had a lot of stalkers, she hooks up with losers, and then he points the finger at the cook. The cook at Divas, he was obsessed with Rachel Ciani. He wanted to have her as his girlfriend in the worst way. But the police dismissed him as a suspect. They don't have any direct evidence against the cook. And so they asked Jack, where were you that night? What were you doing?
He said he was at Divas, that he was there for several hours drinking, that he had left that establishment, went to another place.
He says, at Divas, he had had 6 beers or 6 shots, some incredible amount of alcohol, and now he's at a second bar drinking even more.
He claimed a friend drove him back to the motel that was attached to Divas, and that he walked straight in and went to sleep. He said he was asleep in his room by 2 o'clock. He was never banging on the door. He was never seen talking to Rachel, never walked into the motel with her. Now my antennas are definitely going up. It's contradicting what not only a friend of the victim stated, but a police officer.
They begin to confront him how his story is completely different from the eyewitness accounts. He is emphatic. He says, I was not with her. He had nothing to do with her death. Also during the interview, one of the detectives sees injuries, like scratch marks on Jack's arm, and confronts him about it. Rachel had broken fingernails on her hand. The detectives were immediately thinking that she was the one that injured and scratched Jack during a struggle. And Jack immediately is uncomfortable and says that a sign fell on his arm at work and dismisses it.
At this point, his demeanor had completely changed. He basically refused to answer any further questions.
He gets up, calls his wife, calls his father. He tells his father how he feels that he's going to be arrested soon. And the detectives are like, where did this come from? He's telling us that he didn't do it, but now he's telling his father that, you know, I think I'm going to be arrested soon. So this was a huge red flag for everyone. But all the evidence that we had was circumstantial. We didn't have a confession. We didn't have a video of him hurting her.
There's still no direct evidence linking him to the crime, so he's free to go.
You know, in a situation like this, as an investigator or detective, it doesn't feel that great when you have to let your prime suspect, you know, walk away. But legally, that's what we have to do at times until the charges are authorized.
At this point, the detectives realize that the stakes are high. We need to gather more eyewitness testimony and physical evidence that can link him to Rachel's death. Rachel's body was found in New Jersey, but she was last seen in Pennsylvania. We feel that he probably drove her over to New Jersey to dump her body from the bridge. We realized that the Delaware River Bridge Authority has cameras, surveillance cameras, at the tolls. We had to look at video footage from the bridge to see if we can see a truck that resembled Jack Denofa's truck.
On the night of question, 28th going into the 29th, one of the tapes showed a red Dodge pickup truck, which is what Jack owned, traveling through the turnpike around 3:13.
This is in the days before Easy Pass. You know, you had to stop and take a ticket to get onto the New Jersey Turnpike from Pennsylvania, and they see a red pickup truck. And in the back of that red pickup truck is a body.
What you can see is a truck that's identical to Jack Denofa's truck. And then when the truck was going through the toll, you can see a body in the back that was wearing clothing that was identical to Rachel's clothing. It was approximately 3:13 a.m., and approximately half an hour later, the truck returns with no body in the back of the pickup truck. Unfortunately, because of the quality of the video, we weren't able to see who was driving that truck or a license plate. So our next challenge is placing Jack Denofa in that truck.
What they noticed almost immediately was that the car seemed to be very clean, as if it had just recently been through a car wash and/or detailed.
They weren't just going to take the truck at face value. They searched that thing headlight to taillight.
Upon further examination of Mr. Denofa's pickup truck, it had a bed liner. We immediately removed the bed liner of the truck, turned it upside down, and sure enough, there were reddish-brown stains consistent with blood. Well, once we got that bed liner on, I was like, bingo, that's it, he's done.
They ultimately took samples of the dried blood and submitted those samples to the lab.
They used a sample of that and a sample from the sidewalk at the hotel, and ultimately DNA revealed that it did come back to our victim, Rachel Ciani.
As a result of everything that all the detectives found, the prosecutor's office determined that we should arrest Jack Denofa for the murder of Rachel Ciani. He didn't look surprised. He just told his wife to call his father and said that he wasn't going to talk to us anymore about it. He wanted an attorney.
I last saw the girl at 11 o'clock after I smoked a joint with her. That's a fact.
The facts are, police say, that the 35-year-old Denofa was the last person to see Ciani alive. The murder charge comes from Burlington County, New Jersey, where the body was actually found.
We're surmising that there was some type of struggle that Rachel and Jack had inside the hotel room. We don't know if it was Jack wanted to have sex with her, if it was over money or drugs or whatever. At some point, Rachel had become incapacitated. He was unsure if she had died or what, wanted to get rid of her body. He put her out on the ledge of that window and tried to drop her down into his truck, and that's when she hit her head on the sidewalk. Put her in the back of his pickup truck and dropped her over the bridge.
I was shocked to hear that Jack was accused of her murder. I was really shocked because he was part of the family, if you will. It was really horrifying, and it really made me think about just people in general, what makes them flip.
That was a turning point for everyone who didn't believe it was Jack. It still sent shockwaves, of course, because this person you thought you knew. You thought you had a great judge of character, and I don't know that you could do this, which horrified me.
Rachel's death, at least locally, had a little bit of a shockwave in that community, that they started actually protecting their girls more. There are other dancers that aren't at as high a risk because of how devastating this was to everybody that knew Rachel.
The big thing in this case that sticks out in my mind is the fact that she was only 21 years old. You know, had really an entire life ahead of her. Unfortunately, it was ended.
The saddest and most angering thing about this is how easily women are victims of crimes. So maybe we take our clothes off. It doesn't give somebody the right to our body. And that was devalued, her body, her life.
I think some of the misconceptions are people want to paint her as a partier or a wild child because of her employment, and that wasn't the case at all. She knew what she wanted to get out of life, and she was working hard to get to it.
She inspired me. I wanted to be like that. Like, I wish I had that kind of motivation. And she's just missed. She's missed.